everyone and welcome back to our channel The Teacher, and today we are going to talk about this car infinite vector animation scene in PowerPoint 2016, or you can also make this animation in earlier versions of PowerPoint as well. So this animation is basically inspired from one of the animation by Josh Noah at sunduckfilm.com, and here is the original animation. I tried my best to replicate as many effects I can in PowerPoint, and a few years back in 2017 I had also published a video on car animation. So basically what we are going to do in this animation is trying to make this more attractive, just like he did in After Effects. However, it is impossible to replicate all the animations in PowerPoint because there are not many tools as the After Effects has. So let's get started, and first of all I would also like to show you all the asset files that we are using in this presentation. All of these files, and these files I got from the sunduckfilm.com, and he provided the link of these resource files in his video description, and the link of these videos are also given in the video description of this video. So if you follow this description, then you can find here download unlimited project files and down this tutorials project file and follow along. So if you click on this link, that will take you to sunduckfilm.com, and you must register on his site to download free resources. As you can see here, the download link will appear here if I log in to his website. Now if I click on the same link again, after login you will see the download button, and you can click and download all the resource files. So basically these resource files contain the vector files for Adobe Illustrator, and I have downloaded and embedded them into PowerPoint, and let me show you all of these files. So here is the original clip with the background scene and the car, and here you can see all the objects that has been used. So you must change the group style if you want to modify a few objects as per your requirement. So as you can see that in the original animation, the tires of this car is having a spin animation. So if you export these Illustrator files as SVG format, as you know that PowerPoint support SVG formats only. So if you export them and import them later into PowerPoint, then you will get exactly the same groups as they are in the original Adobe Illustrator files. If you want to make some objects different from these groups, then you can add a few new layers and can place those objects into those layers. So let me show you. Like these two tires have under the subgroups. So I want to animate these two tires only in entire car. So what I will do, I will add two new layers on the root, let's say here, and I click 2 times here, add 2 new layers, and now what I will do, I will drag these 2 layers inside the newly created layers. So that way when I will import these SVG files, then they will have a separate group. So I will do that for the second tire as well. So that way you can choose which object you want in the primary layers and which object you want in the sub layers. So it will be easy for you to group and ungroup objects when you will import these files into PowerPoint, and I will show you that later on. So I modify all the layers as per requirement into this vector file, and you can download these vector files, and the link of these tutorial and the vector files is also given in the video description, and you can see that how I have modified all the layers of this car. So secondly, we have the background. So we don't need to do much with the background, as we are not going to take this all of these layers. Instead we will export this background as PNG, and there is a reason behind that, and I will show you that in the PowerPoint. So once you have both of these files ready to import into PowerPoint, and you can download them from the link. I have placed all these files in the description, and you can use for background we will use the PNG format instead of SVG format, and I will show you that why I am doing this. So let's get started and go to the PowerPoint, and here I will open a new slide, Control N, and change the layout to blank, and will collapse this thumbnail view. Now first of all I will insert the background. So for that I go to the Insert tab, click Picture drop down button and choose this device, and here I move to the desktop, Infinite Car Animation, and here you can see I have exported in two different formats, SVG format and PNG format. So first I will show you the SVG format. Click Insert, and if you go to the graphics format, click Group drop down button and choose Ungroup, and you can see that in selection pane, and here we have all the layers, but still they are under a main group, that is graphics 4, and you again need to ungroup one more time to have all the primary layers separated, and all these primary layers have sub layers like this. So for the background we are not going to use SVG format. I am showing you why I am not using the SVG format for the background, because we need to replicate this background many times in PowerPoint, and as you can see that the movement of the mouse is not according to the speed of the movement of the picture. So when you have a lot of objects in PowerPoint, as you can see here, we need to replicate this image 4 times. So when you have a lot of object on inside your PowerPoint slide, and let me replicate it one more time, and you can see the difference between the speed. The picture movement is not according to the mouse movement. I have released the mouse button, but the picture is still moving. So that is why we are not going to use the SVG format. Instead we will use a single picture, that is PNG. So I will again go to Insert Picture, this device, and this time for background I am going to use the PNG format, because we don't need to modify this any of the object in this picture. So that is why I will prefer to use PNG, and that is smaller in size. So place it right at the exact point where you need it. Now zoom out a little bit, and for zooming out or zooming in you can hold down the control button, and then you can use the middle mouse button to zoom in and zoom out. Let me crop the part of it that I don't want. Sorry, from the left side I will crop it right here, and from the right side I will crop it up to this point. So once you have a picture ready, now it's time to replicate it 3 more times. So to replicate, you can either go to Home tab and choose Copy and Paste, or instead of doing that you can hold down Control and Shift keys and then just drag and drop. So if you want to change the scene, another way of doing that is go to the picture format, click on Rotate drop down button and choose Flip horizontally. That way you can also make a difference between the same picture by flipping it horizontally, as you can see it here. So now I will zoom out, and will select both of these pictures by holding the Shift key and replicate it one more time, just like this. So once you have 4 pictures in the background, select all of them by pressing Ctrl A, and then go to Picture Format, choose Group, and then choose Group. Now we have our background ready, and we want a motion in the background, a continuous motion, and we want that motion to be infinite. So for that we will use the left motion path, and you can add the motion path by clicking on Add Motion drop down button, go to More Motion Paths, and here you can choose the left motion path. So we don't want any cut in the infinite loop. So for that you must choose the path length very carefully, and I will show you how. Hold down the shift key and then hold down this red, the ending point motion path, and you need to drag it right on these two telephone both right here. So that path must be correct, otherwise you will see cut between the infinity loop. So let me show you the slideshow. For that I am going to animation pane and I will double click on this. I don't want any smoothness in this animation. Go to the timing tab. I want to start it with previous and want to repeat it until end of the slide and a duration of 5 seconds. Hit the OK key. Now we will see if when we play the slideshow, we will see that if there are any cuts, and if there are any, then we will set the motion path again to match exactly with the length of the picture. So let's see the slideshow. So you can notice that after 5 seconds there is a continuous loop without any cuts or any flicker between the loops. So if there are any, you must adjust the path length according to the position of your pictures object on the pictures. So now it's time to animate the car. So for that you can see that I have placed the car in a separate slide, and if I show you the selection pane, and here you can see all the objects. I have modified the car a little bit. So if you will match these objects with the original car EMF file like this, you will notice that I have a different object list in the PowerPoint, because I have to modify the side mirrors of this car. Like that is not a single object, these are 3 different objects, whereas in the EMF file you will find them as a single object. And here you will also see that to create a mask, which is not possible in PowerPoint, and I have also created a few more objects to create the masking, and we are creating the masking to create this reflection effect that you can see in the original animation by Josh Noah in After Effects. And here you can also see some hidden objects here. I draw them to create a mask for the reflection, and I will show you later on why I did so. So if I open the animation pane in this presentation, then you can see all the animation effect that I have applied to this car. So before we place this car inside our background scene presentation, let me show you the slideshow first, and do note the reflection on the windows. That is the important part of this animation. And the next thing will be the tires. We will apply the spin animation effect on the tires, but with a little bit difference. So let's first talk about the reflection. So if I select the first one, these are total 3 objects, one on the top of other, as you can see here. One reflection, second reflection, and third reflection. We total have 3 reflections. Let me undo this, and I have placed one on top of the other. So on each of the reflection we are using the same animation effects, but with a little bit difference between the delay timings, as you can see here. For the second set we have a delay timing of 0.50 seconds, and for the third we have a delay timing of 1 second. So what we are actually doing, we want this reflection to move to the left up to this path, but if you move that reflection right to the left, then it will get on top of all these objects. So to avoid this, what I have done, I have created separate windows and then place this window body on top of all of these windows. So the reflection, when the reflection will move through, then this object is on top of all these 3 windows. So when it will go right from this point, So when it will move right from this point to the left, then it will get hide behind the window body. So that what we want, and it will get hidden right at this point. And that is what these three animations are for. First, the reflection will appear, and for that we are using the entrance appear effect, and then we are using the left motion path up to this point, and then I want the reflection to get disappear. So that way the first reflection, let me open the selection pane and hide the rest of two reflections. So here you can see the object names, reflection on side window 1, 2 and 3. So I will hide second and third reflection to show you the first one. So that is what we are doing. Now let me turn on second and third. The one thing is that you cannot apply the repeat until end slide effect on these reflections, and if even if there was an option like here in the for the motion path, you can do this repeat until end of the slide, but that option is not available for appear and disappear effect. So if you want the reflection to come 5 or 6 times, then you have to recreate the same object, replicate it 5, 6 or 7 times, as many times you want it, and then apply the same animation effect on it with a difference in delay timings. So that is what you have to do if you want the reflection to continue with the infinite background scene. Now we come to the tires. So if you simply go to the animations and go to add animation and apply the spin animation effect, you can see the tires are spinning, and you only notice this because of the colors. If there are similar colors in the tire, then you will not see the spinning animation. So the only reason that you are seeing the tire spinning because of the colors. So if I show you the slideshow, let me play it with previous without any delay timing, and now let me show you the slideshow. So tires are moving, and you can also apply another animation that we call teeter, but that is not going to help on these tires because they are in round in shape. Let me show you the teeter animation effect on the car body. So here you can see the teeter. Let me increase the duration. So if you want to apply these kind of animation effect, then you must apply the same animation effect on rest of the car objects, like on the window body and on these nose. Then you have to apply the same effect on all the parts. So let me delete both of these. Now we want to the tires to make a little different kind of spin. So for that you can apply two tricks here. Let me apply the first spin animation effect without any delay timing and double click on this without any smoothness and repeat it until end of this slide. And now what you can do, you can apply another animation effect, that is crow shrink. Set it to play with previous, and in the effect option choose only horizontal and repeat it until end of slide. And for horizontal growth I am just going to use 103% with auto reverse. So now let's see the slideshow, and now you can see a little bit difference between the spin animation effect. The tire is growing and shrinking along with the spin. So if you want to play the same animation effect on the first tire, then just select this one, click on the animation printer once and then click on the first tire. So that is how you can replicate the same animation effect using the animation printer. The another technique is, if you don't want to use grow shrink, then you can change the anchor point of this circle here or tire, and for that you can either draw another object and later you can hide that object by using no fill and no outline, as I have described in my video how to create custom anchor points in PowerPoint, and the link of these videos is also available in the video description. Or another trick that you can apply is draw an oval here on top of this tire like this and make it a little bit larger than the tire. Apply no fill, and now group both of these objects by holding the shift key and then go to shape format, group. Now apply the spin animation effect, set it to play with previous without any delay timing, and repeat it until end of the slide and without any smoothness. So now if we see the slideshow, now you can see the movement of tire is changed because of the oval outside the tire. So if you will change the size of this oval, that will also change the spin. So you can adjust accordingly as you want it, and later you can hide that oval by choosing no fill and no outline. And you can also replicate the same tire, the entire tire, along with the animation effect. Hold down Ctrl and Shift key and just drag and drop it. Now see the slideshow. So I think that is better, and we can also do some animation on the snow on top of the car, and for that we can simply use the fade animation effect. Go to add animation and apply fade animation, set it to play with previous, and the duration and delay timing is totally up to you, and I will apply different duration and delay timings for different snow particles. And after applying the one on the first one, double click on the animation painter and then just start clicking on rest of the snow particles. That way you can easily replicate the same animation. Okay, now what I will do, I will just add a delay timing, different kind of delay timing for each of the, you can also just drag and drop them like this. You can also change the duration, short duration for some and long duration for others, like this. It is totally up to you. Now let's see the slideshow. So I think that's fine. Now what we are going to do, we are going to select all the objects of this slide by pressing Ctrl A, then press Ctrl C to copy, or you can also go to the home tab and then click copy, and now switch back to your background scene presentation, and from the home tab click paste, or you can also press Ctrl V and just place the car where you want it along with all the other objects because all of them are selected. So let's see the slideshow and see how it looks. So Josh Noah also added a motion blur animation effect to the original animation that we have seen before. The motion blur is not available in PowerPoint, and there is no technique to create a motion blur in PowerPoint, so we can't do this. So you have to make the background and the car as it is, as you are looking right now. Now the next thing is adding the snow particle. So for that, what you can do, you can Google snow GIF. Go to images, click on tools, and then click the color drop down button and choose transparent. And here you can find different kind of snow particles with a transparent background. The background must be transparent like this one. And now you can right click on this picture and choose copy image, go to your presentation and then just click paste, Ctrl V, or you can press the paste button from the home tab. Now just place the snow where you want it and resize it. If you want to replicate it, just Ctrl C, Ctrl V, you can place it sideways, and you can also flip it horizontally, flip flip horizontally, and you can also change the angle or stretch it a little more. Now let's see the slideshow. So you can add any kind of snow as you want. Here you can find a different kind of snow particles available here. So it's totally up to you which one you like. Or you can also watch my tutorial on how to create snow particles. I had already created a video on this. If you want to use these snow particles, you can do that, and I have also included the presentation. But the problem is that you can either use the GIF file, but the size always matters. The size of this file is 3.67 MB, and that can slow down your presentation. So it will be better to use the ready-made GIF files, or even if you open this presentation, the snow particle presentation, then you can copy all of these snow particles. Let me go back here and delete these ones and paste the one that I have created for myself, and let's see the slideshow. Now you can see a little bit lagging in the animation because of there are a lot of animation effects and a lot of objects in the slide, so that can make your presentation a little bit slower. So it is good to use the ready-made GIF files. So before we end this tutorial, let me tell you one more important thing. If I delete the background here, and I have published a video on landscape parallax animation in PowerPoint, and you can see this presentation here, where you can see that we have 3 different layers in the background which are moving at different speed. So you can also use this technique instead of a single picture, PNG picture that we have placed in this car animation here. So instead of using a single picture, that is why there is a difference between using the PNG file and the vector files. So you can create different layers in the vector files, and then you can apply the motion path. Let me delete this one and place the landscape layers in this presentation. Here I am going to open the selection pane, and we'll just select the background layers and we'll copy them into our car animation scene. So now if we see the slideshow, then you will have this kind of animation. That's just an illustration. You can modify the objects as you want. So I hope you will like this tutorial. Let me know by liking, sharing and commenting on this video, and do subscribe to our channel for more upcoming tutorial videos. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.